everyone, and welcome to the Lesbian Talk Shows for Love and Money. I'm your host, Rae Magden, and today we have a very special guest who I'm really excited to talk to, Barbara Winkus. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Good morning.
Thanks so much for agreeing to be on For Love and Money. I really am excited to discuss some stuff with you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
The first thing I want to do is you have an upcoming new release this January that I will link to in the show notes, the 8th book in the Carpenter Harding series. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so it's like you said, it's number 8 in the series. I started the series in 2015. So it's about a detective and an officer who, in the first book, are hunting a serial killer and also starting their relationship with each other on a pretty rocky basis. And the books follow them with their cases, their different cases, and their relationship up to number 8 right now. And I think it's really interesting for people who have followed the series to see where they are now. And it's been a while. It's been 7 months since the last book, so I think this is going to be interesting for the fans of the series.
Well, I'm certainly interested. I'll have to pick up the first one now. You have released 8 books, or will have released 8 books in a span of 3 to 4 years in this series. Do you think that doing such a long series with frequent releases has helped grow your audience and keep people engaged?
I think a series, in any case, it is interesting for readers. I also put all my books in Kindle Unlimited, so people who like to binge on series or different titles of one author, that helps them. But I like to alternate a little bit between a book in a series and standalones, so people can come in at any point and see if they want to follow certain characters over a long time, or if they just want to try and see if that particular style or author or genre is for them.
So some people don't like to use Kindle Unlimited and haven't found it effective for their business model, but I've talked to a lot of authors who stand by it and think that they make a really good profit from it. Has that been your experience? Has Kindle Unlimited really helped grow your audience and sales?
Absolutely. I am one of those people who really stand by it because I was in it from the beginning pretty much. I was I already have had my books in the program when it was pay per download. And of course, there was a lot of discussion when it changed to pay per page read. And it's certainly true that a sale makes you more than a download in Kindle Unlimited. But in the end, the number of people who download it and then come back for more uh, make the difference for me. And I think it also helps the ranking right out of the gate when you release a book. And so in the end, for me, it has a lot of advantages. So some people use it like just at the beginning and go wide later, but for me it's also a thing of saving time if I have to deal with just Amazon, which is not always without frustration, but really it saves time in the end also for me.
Okay, that is a very sound strategy. No arguments here. So, when you release your new release in January, Impressions, what is at the top of your to do list when you start promoting it?
I have a number of different things that go for every book. This is a little different and a little more subdued, maybe because it's, like we said, very far in the series. So, what I do is, or what I've already done before, is to promote the first book in the series. And also, last winter, I had a standalone release that was in the same genre, a thriller called Killer Instinct. This one is going to have a book pub coming early in February. So I try to combine uh, the promotion of books that are in a similar genre and to see to keep more than one at all times in the top 100 of my primary categories. So I've learned a little bit over the years that that is really helpful if you have one new release, one that is has a good promotion going, like the BookBub, and the combination of both often helps it all together. And I would have preferred, of course, to get the first in the series. I haven't managed that yet, to get that one into BookBub, but I'll keep trying for that. Based on the experience I had last year, that is really a good combination of things.
Yeah, that's the strategy I use too, to discount one of your older releases on BookBub at the same time as you have a new release to drive sales toward you. I have another question. When I looked you up on Google, as I do when I have interview guests, I saw right at the top it said author Barbara Vinkus, and then it said all of your books below, like it was the first Google result. And that's really cool. When I usually Google lesfic authors, I don't see that. How did you add yourself as an official author on Google so that people, when they see your name, see that banner above the search results with all your stuff?
I think part of it also had to do with the banner that you see. Actually, it shows some of my older covers that are still with the old publisher that I had in the beginning, and so I assume that there was still a connection there. I tried to change the covers, which I realized was really tough, and I'm still in the process of doing that. So really, the covers show up that are presently on my books. But I started out with a small press, and I learned a lot of things there, and it was not such a bad thing to do to really learn things about the business. And like somebody like me who had very little idea, I was more like, okay, I write a story, what do I do next? And now I have learned some things about how to make myself more visible. That is really the main priority.
Would you say that you prioritize social media or mailing lists in your efforts to engage with your audience and keep them updated about your work?
I did prioritize social media for a long time, and I would say like around 2015-16, it still used to work very well. But I've shifted a little bit from that, also because I've learned more things over time about other strategies of marketing, and there are other options out there also that weren't there all the time. Like for example, the My Last Week newsletter that I've used often and will continue to use. And I have to admit that I don't yet have a personal author newsletter that I will take care of in the coming weeks, because that was something I have to say that I put off for a long time, and it is something that has now become a little bit more urgent, I feel.
So your Lesfic newsletter, it has offerings from other authors as well. Do you find that promoting other authors gets them to promote you in return in the spirit of collaboration?
This the My Last Week newsletter, I don't know if you heard about it. It was started by Harper Bliss and her wife.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Yes, so this is something I was aware of when they first started, and I tried it out a few months after and was really happy and surprised with the results, and have used it ever since. So this is sort of like a BookBub, but just for Lesfic, and it works very well, I think.
Well, targeted advertising can be really effective. We talked about rankings on Amazon, and since you put a lot of your and since you put a lot of your books in the Amazon basket with Kindle Unlimited, ranking must be very important to your sales numbers.
It is, I believe, and just recently I've started shifting things around a little bit and adjusting keywords. I've started last year with the AMS ads from Amazon, and those were all things that I for a long time, I wasn't so sure. I didn't know very well how to make those particular aspects work for me, because especially in the beginning with the publisher, I didn't have to really worry much about that. But like adjusting keywords, sometimes it can really make a difference to keep you higher in the ranking. It keeps you more visible, and that is like really the basis for people to see you and buy your books. And I think that's very important.
What keywords have you found are effective for you in your genre?
So, for example, I always start out with lesbian and go then more specific, like lesbian thriller, like lesbian romantic suspense, like lesbian detective novel recently. Those are things you can check on Amazon when you search yourself for certain keywords, and you see what shows up first, and you think, what do I want people to search for? So I show up in that category, and how do I make it happen that I show up really high in that category? For example, if somebody searches for lesbian thriller, I want them to find my books high in that in their search. So and you can really make it happen with just a few. Okay, I think now I need a moment. I was just searching for the word. With a few small tips and tricks on Amazon in the keywords in your subtitles, for example.
You're listening to The Lesbian Talk Show. TheLesbianTalkShow.com, your hub of podcast information.
So you mentioned your previous publisher. Are you with a different publisher now, or are you doing the independent thing?
I'm completely self-published now. I was a hybrid for a while, really just to try it out, and I could see that over time that was working better for me.
What are some of the advantages with being an independent now that made it appeal to you?
Most people will say, of course, you have more control, but also you have more access to a lot of data. Like you will see a lot of things that you don't get to see when you just get your quarterly statement from the publisher. Of course, also monthly payments over quarterly payments. That was an improvement. And really, you can change around things and fix things much faster than when you have somebody in between. So, of course, it was for me starting out an advantage that somebody was taking care of most of the things that we also want publishing. And I was grateful for that at the time, and it gave me the time to look at and learn other things in the meantime. And when I thought I was ready to try it out with the short story, I saw the results, and I was building on that since then.
It seems to me that if you're self-published, it gives you a lot more freedom to look at data and adjust things like keywords and genre tags a lot easier than if you have to go through a publisher.
Right, and also you see the results pretty quickly, which is not something you can. With the publisher, you would have to have more in between, and it's like, for example, you want to try out a BookBub or my Lesfic, you would have to communicate whether it's okay to discount the book. Is the publisher going to do it? And we had a few changes in mine, and then some people were for discounts, but others were not, and so it's always a little bit more communication and a little bit more time spent. And if that's your business model, and if it's okay for you to leave that part, because of course it takes a part of your time, on the other hand, and when you take care of everything yourself. So it's always, for me, it's always been thing of evaluating choices that I made, and does it still work for me? And going forward, what do I want to achieve? So that is for me always important, because so many people think that it's people with the publisher against indie publishing, or people in Kindle Unlimited versus people who are white, and I don't really see it as that. I see it as different business models that benefit the people who use them.
I completely agree. I don't think the same business model works for everybody, and you can be an effective salesperson of your work in a multitude of ways.
Of course, yes, that's what I think.
Before we go, one last question. You mentioned earlier tips and tricks. What is the most important tip or trick that you would tell a new author who is getting started with the whole promotional thing for their new releases?
What I would say now is to get as specific as you can, because in the beginning I would go to different blogs if I had the chance, and I would try out different things, like a Twitter blast here and something else there, and with mixed results, some better, some not so good. Now, first of all, it's very important to know what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and what you want to sell also. So then you see where are the best places to sell it. And for me, that's really like something that is specific, lesbian specific and LGBT specific, because for example, like BookBub or My Lesfic, then you know those particular newsletters, for example, are targeted to the audience you want to reach. And the thing is, I always say that everyone is welcome to read my books. Of course, I would like to say that, or to think that goes without saying. But for example, the Amazon algorithm doesn't really understand everybody is welcome. So you have to boil it down depending on what your genre is and who you want to reach.
I absolutely agree with that. My intended audience is definitely lesbian, bisexual, trans women, but on the other hand, I am happy when straight men or trans men read my work.
Yes, I think that's important too. I've had a few reviews when people say, well, when I can from the profile see it's maybe a man or it's a straight woman who says it in her review, and I think that's great. It's like I would not specifically target my marketing and maybe my marketing dollars to this audience, but if they find me, it's great, and of course they are welcome. That was a couple of books that I've written. One of them was with the publisher, and I have now, for the moment, it's not available, but I will put it up again at some point. That was a mystery I wrote with the straight woman as a main character, but her sister is a lesbian, and I had moderate. Yeah, not the same success really with that I have when I have a clear lesbian couple in the book, but I thought that was a little bit a story that could also make a bridge between the genres, because it's not exactly mainstream, it's not exactly lesfic, but as an additional offering, I would say I would still like to put it up again at some point.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really appreciate your insights, and I've enjoyed talking to you a whole lot. I'm sure that my listeners will enjoy hearing your advice and your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Lesbian Talk Shows for Love and Money with Rae Magden. Today, our guest was Barbara Vinkus. I will add a link to her latest release, Impressions, in the show notes, as well as a link to the first book in the series and links to her website and social media. Please go to our Patreon page where you can hear exclusive clips not found anywhere else. If you want to continue the conversation, join the Lesbian Talk Show's Facebook group, and you can engage with other listeners. Thank you and have a great week.